Hello and welcome to this Goecker video. The aim for the video is to give you inspiration to shoot maybe even better portraits and maybe also to grow your business. To help us today, we are happy to have Martina Währenfeldt with us. Welcome to you, Martina.
Thank you so much.
Great to see you. In this video, you will see Martina working with a portrait from the very beginning and styling and posing and doing her shoot, her editing, and finally show her fine art portraits, which is her brand,
It's a brand.
among many.
Style.
Yes. Yes, it is.
No, I just want to give you guys a little view of the way my images looks today. And then we talk some more. When I today shoot and meet my clients, my portrait clients, we're going to focus a little bit more on the portrait stuff. My end goal is products. I want them, just like I said before, I don't want them to have files laying around on a USB. I want them to have products. I want them to have a beautiful image on the wall. It is something, I don't think that anybody regrets that. I never heard anybody come back to me and says, oh, darn, I wish I didn't, buy that 40 by 50 centimeters to put it up by my kids. Never. It is treasured. It is valuable. It is a pleasure. And even if, like I said, even if it's an investment for my client, it stays on there for years. And that's pretty cool that we can have something we create be so cherished in somebody's home. And I have always been selling wall art or enlargements with frames, without frames. And recently, I started selling image boxes. I found this company a couple of years ago on a convention in London, and I touched their image box that was wooden. It was actually this one, a walnut wooden box, window box. And when I opened it, let me see if I have an open one. Yes, there we go. And I actually felt it, and I looked at those hinges, and I was like, oh, look at those hinges. That was totally got me. They are so beautiful, and they are so well made. And I discussed it with the people, and I thought to myself that, ooh, it's kind of pricey. You don't want to buy too many products that cost too much. But I was like, I can probably not sell this in my area. That was 2 years ago. Last year in January, I had decided to go all the way, introducing this. I could not get over these boxes. They were so beautiful. And for my clients, in Sweden mostly, when I'm comparing to my American colleagues, they sell a lot of wall arts. If they do a family session, they can have like 3 big pieces there. We have 5 pieces in the kitchen. In Sweden, in my area, I'm probably Denmark too. I'm not sure. You guys can tell me later if it's true. They don't want to be displaying all these images throughout the house. They might want to do 1 or 2 big ones, but they don't want to be like all over the place. We're a little bit more, no, I shouldn't. So these boxes, when they're loving like 20, 30 images of their portrait session, these boxes are perfect. Because you'd be like, you can have all these images lovely presented in a box, and they can switch out the front. And I usually joke and tell the mom, it's like, you know, when the rest of the family hasn't behaved, you just make sure you put your own picture up there for at least a week. You know, they are not allowed to be in there. But, and all these images, I print them by myself. So I order the box, and I get the mounts, the passepartouts, comes with the box, and then I print all the images myself. So if something goes wrong, I can always reprint it. And the one thing that's really great is because they spend, these are kind of expensive for them, or not so much budget. I can say expensive is not a great word. But when they do this and I print these and I have some space over on my paper, I do little wallet size, because it's all, and the space is there. I don't want to waste it. So I do a little wallet size, and I just include them, a few to them. And oh my God, this is like, they have bought this box for like 30,000 Swedish crowns, and they go, I love the wallet size. You know, it's like, it cost me nothing to give them that. But I could do that because I was printing myself. And I realized there's some empty space on the paper. So I do that a lot. Actually had a...
How do you mount the pictures? Is it just a passepartout, or is it a
no,
special...
it's a back.
It has a back also.
And it actually just opens on the lower side, on one side, and they have a little bit of tape, so you can just rip it. It's really, really well made.
Okay.
It's easy to mount.
So people have the box standing in the...
Yeah, the box is like, and we have one more here that's covered. Not all of them are window boxes. I have one that's covered, and most of the ones I sell are 30 by 40 centimeters. And then the images in the mounts are 20 by 25. Those are my middle package and my large package. And then I also have a small package. And then it's a small box that's like 20 by 25 box. And then the images are 13 by 18 in there. But very few small boxes are sold because the big ones are so impressive and heavy and super good quality. And I can literally sell them with love. And I don't feel like a salesperson because I believe in it. When I prepare these with my fine art paper, and this company actually sends you a little bag with gloves that you can put in for your clients. And I have the nice USB. They're actually moving, we can talk about that later, but they're moving from USBs right now into a card that people can keep in their wallet. And they just put it on their phone. And then the picture comes up on the phone. So they can keep that. It's like a little business card, of course, with my logo on it. So they meet their friends and goes, oh, yeah, this is the pictures from the photographer. And they take the friend's mobile phone and just put it on there. And boom, the picture comes up. So I just got those. I haven't tried them yet. But before that, now I've been doing USB. So everything is really nicely crafted. And when I package this to my client, I have made a sale around $20,000 to $30,000. No, that would have been nice. Svenska kronor, Swedish crowns. I'm happy, and my clients are happy. It is such a huge value. And the editing, I mean, it's fine art edited all the way. So I have probably fewer clients now that are spending more, but I'm working twice as hard because I put so much pressure on myself to make it really, really good. But yeah, it is awesome to work that way and to serve them with that quality, and learning how to price myself so I can afford to buy this high-end image box and sell that back to my clients. It took some courage for me to change my prices that way, but I did it January 2021, and I can't even count how many boxes I've sold. They go out the door like this. It is amazing. And let's get started. So I have the styling, and I have my model, and then I will consider the lighting. I'm quite simple in my lighting setups. When I do like corporate stuff or headshots or more personal branding, I can bring in some more lights. I actually know how to do that. But when it comes to the portrait and the fine art portrait shoots, I want it to be have the feel of the big window light. I am inspired by the old oil painting masters, and they don't usually had like 5 different light sources coming in. They had one big, sometimes directional, sometimes sideways or whatever. So old masters are my inspiration. So I usually use a big light source, pretty close to the model, but mostly passing by. So I'm using the edge light. Do you guys know what I mean with that? Everybody? Yeah? So it's not hitting her directly, just the spill light, which actually flies over a little bit, so I don't get that sharp cutoff. So I have that spill light slightly going by her. So I do have a reflector here right now because it was a little bit too hard of a drop off, so I wanted to fill up the shadows a little bit. But this is a setup I use a lot. I have this Octa softbox in my studio. This is my #1 go-to for modifier. I use that one sideways as I have it today. I also use it slightly up on a 45-degree angle. And one of my favorites is actually using it as the butterfly light. I just learned that it's called the butterfly light. You guys know what I mean with that? Yeah, you guys are much more technical than I am, probably. No, but the butterfly is like when it comes from above and it creates this little, it's almost like a butterfly shape from the nose. And I have that also, just the edge light. So it's literally in front of the model and just spilling down there. That is a beautiful light, especially for cheekbones and everything, like creating shadows in there. But of course, we cannot have the model going like this because we get all dark eyes. So you have to have certain posture and posing to fit that kind of light coming from above. I do fill in sometimes, depending on placement of the eyes. You know, everything like that depends if I need to fill in a little bit. But love those 3 from the side, from the top to butterfly, and this one straight from the side is some of my favorites to go to. As far as gear goes, I shoot Canon. I been doing that since I left Hasselblad. I was a Hasselblad girl for years and years and years. But I ended up realizing it was kind of like clunk, clunk. You know, it's like too slow. Now I have slowed down my work. Since I do more fine art now, I need to go back probably to find a mid-size format to complement what I have. But these have gotten so much bigger as far as the sensor goes. So the last one, this is the R5. R5, I'm looking around. Thank you. I don't say anything wrong here on camera. And I'm loving it because the files are bigger and I can sort of reconnect with my old Hasselblad feeling. But no, I have not been considering any other cameras. It's just been, it's easy to use for me as well. Since I'm not that into everything technical, learning so much, it's understandable, easy to use, and quality is outstanding. I'm happy. And also, with the one that I got then, that I can shoot from here. I don't have to stand like this anymore all the time. I'm down here, relaxed in my shoulders, comfortable hold, and shooting around. The only thing I noticed, which I have to remind myself is that my clients sometimes look at in my eyes when I talk and I shoot, right? So I have sometimes a photo shoot when I can see they slightly looking up and I go, no, look down here. So I have to remind them, or sometimes just bring up to make sure I have both combos, because I saw that the other day, a client that had too many images that was like slightly looking up over the edge. But for me, having here, coming down here, and that, I know I probably say things the wrong way, but the focus that searches for the eye focus, is that right? Okay, thank you. That is amazing, because I am not a tripod kind of a shooter. I like to have to move around. I want to get down. I want to move. I want to get, I'm just go with the flow, go with the feeling. And if I would have a tripod with a perfect focus on there, I'd be like, okay, now we're gonna, whoop, no. So for me, having that one to flow and to go with me is so good. So we have the gear and the lighting and the styling. And what else do we need to get a good shot? Models, yeah, well, yeah, she's here. She's in this. She's a part of the styling. We need a great model right now. But what else? Posing. For me, it's super important, especially when I do fine art, because there's a certain feel to it. And once again, going back to the old masters, how they have their hands and how they held their objects, and the softness and the ethereal feeling to it. That's what I want to catch in my portraits. So posing, directing is a big part of getting the image that I want. And I have had literally 3 and 5-year-olds totally getting it. You know, they'd be like, oh, you want it like this? And I go, what? What planet are you from? It's amazing. But not everybody has it in me. You do great. But I really have to sometimes get in there and be like physical, show them. And I think it's very important that I use my own body to tell people how to pose and how to stand so they can sort of reflect me. And then we can just fine tune whatever is necessary to fine tune. So let's get started. And you're going to hear me. I communicate a lot. I talk. And just to make sure that the models are on the right track, it's about, what do you say, like affirming that they are doing great and then just twitching a little bit. And sometimes when it's not working, I try not to be like, no, that does not work. I try not to be negative, but I try to be like, oh, that's great, but let's try it this way. And that's something I had to learn because it's easy for me to just speak my mind and be a little bit too honest. I'd be like, no, it looks like crap. I can't say that. So I have to make sure I learn a new way to be more positive in how I direct. Okay, so let's do this without the props. Props is another thing that it's great when I do fine art, because to have the hands to do something. Hands are important because you want them to be gentle and beautiful. And hands, I'm sure you guys have all noticed some images sometimes when the hands are just too harsh, too tightened, or you have some fingers missing when people are standing. And the image can be awesome, but then you have this chunk of a hand with no fingers, instead of bringing some fingers in and not spreading them too much, but just gently put them together. And you don't want to do this either, because it looks kind of stiff. So you just want it to be slightly soft, slightly separated. I look for fingers all the time, hands and fingers. And you're going to hear me do that too. All right. So we can just go back a little bit to where we practiced a little bit before. So I want you to get in there. And even if I'm shooting from knees up here, I still want her legs to be engaged. They would say I want them to do something. So she can just go either in a little bit or out a little bit. And being in this kind of a costume setup, a doll, it's a clown, a doll, or something like a puppet. It's what we get the sense and the feeling, the mood of this shot. So she's going to use her hands, her feet to be a little bit as if she were a doll and a puppet. Are you getting stuck? That's okay. All right. So we go back. You tilt your body a little bit. We use the hands, good. And then you have your major light here. That's good. I love that hand. That's beautiful. Let the hand come out a little bit, slightly right there. Perfect. Stand right there and hold. Great. Just tilting your your face a little bit different. There you go. Wonderful. Stop right there. When I have somebody who is, you can relax a little bit. When I have somebody that is comfortable and has been in front of the camera before and has that model sense, they do what she does right now. A little bit of tilt, a little bit of that. It's like small turning of the faces. And it's so nice because we don't lose the whole pose, but I get different kind of expressions just from that. But that does not come from everybody. I really have to direct that part. I was like, tilt your face down, move this a little bit, turn over here, and I usually do that. I think probably at least 80% of my shoots, I have to go all that way. Or tell them just to slightly change this with your face and your down. Because a lot of people have an idea that they want it, you know, or Instagram posts or whatever, and it doesn't really work from the camera angle. Okay, so we go back. Is it going to be a lot of breaking and pausing and stuff like that? So I want you slightly sideways. Come the other way around, because I love the bow. It's a part of the outfit. You can actually hold it. Hold it right there. And just take your fingers and both hands, elbows out a little bit, just slightly. That's great. Hold it right there. Wonderful. Right there. Good. I want you to face this way. Yep, that's it. Hold it. Right. Now let's take one hand coming up this way. Wonderful. Turn that hand slightly. Yes. And then the other one comes down. Bend your elbow slightly. Out with your hand. Oh, that's it. Hold it right there. Beautiful. Yep. Very nice. Elbow out a little bit. Oh, yes, that's it. So elbow goes out, and then you twist your hand. Sometimes I ask too much, I know. Right there. That's lovely. And pause. My fine art editing is basically, I do it in steps. I do a cleanup stage. And then I go into frequency separation. Do you guys know what frequency separation is? Not all of you. Okay. So if you're interested in a quick and easy way to edit skin and fabric, by the way, it's awesome to edit fabric, the wrinkles and stuff like that. I cannot go into the technical stuff of frequency separation, but what it is basically is you do some settings and you put 2 layers in on your image, and when you edit in one of the layers, you edit just the tonality, like tones, not structure, not texture. And then the other layer, you edit texture and structure, which is much easier. You know, if you just take a clone stamp on an image, you know, you get all muddy and it doesn't look real. But if you're in this frequency separation, you can do the tonality, like cleaning up a little bit underneath the eyes, and you can, if you have some, actually some little bit of hair here, you do the texture layer, and that will so clean up the hairs a little bit. But I'll show you real quick. I cannot go into the setup right now, but if you're interested, please go and check this out. There's plenty of tutorials on YouTube how to set up. It's not very difficult. It's just a few steps you need to take. And there are people out there that can really explain the whys and the hows. But it is a great tool to edit with. So I will be edit with it, and you just follow along. So we will have a decision process here. What image I would like to edit. And for me, I will go through them real quick and see if there's one that stands out as far as angles, mood, expression. I kind of like this. So what I do is I just label them real quick. Maybe I find some that I go, yes, this is for sure. That's fun. I'm missing the hands. At least I got one with hands. Good, Martina. This was so cute, Isabel. Yeah. I love this one. Sometimes this choosing process can, for me, be really hard. Do you guys agree with me on that? That it's hard to choose your favorites and kill your darlings? And gosh, don't get me started when it comes to competition. I think I need to hire somebody to comes in and choose my images for me. That it takes hours. You second guess yourself, you doubt yourself. And then when you have chosen one, you sit and you go, is this the right one? Is this the right one? I actually made one of my competitions early this year was I had entered 2 images in 2 different categories that were quite similar. And this particular competition are extremely tough on the rules, which I love because it makes the integrity very good. So the one who's in charge of going through images and make sure that they're all in the right categories, she calls me up and she goes, nah. You need to be original images. You cannot have 2 similar ones. And you need to take one out. And I took the wrong one out. It didn't do well.
Okay.
I entered the other one to another competition, and it's... So
Great.
choices you make. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's actually quite a cute ones with the bunny here going on, but I'm going to back up because I think I've already seen some of a really good series of images here. I love the way you had your hands here, and I actually really like the expression here, and this is the one. Huh?
That was very close out.
Oh, that was a bit too close. Whew, whew. And please, those screens right there are not exactly fine-tuned. But I'm sure you guys can follow me along, right? So in Lightroom mode, I'll do very little. Let's get out a proof preview. How do I do that? Photo. Sorry, guys. I put that proof preview in before when we tried to view.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Whew, good. Mamma mia. Okay. So in Lightroom, I do very little changes because I don't want to affect it too much because I want to do my most of my work in Photoshop. But I will go through here and see if I might need to adjust a little bit of the shadows and the highlights. It's mostly what I do. Might do a slight curve on it. And right now, I know we have some highlight issues on that hat, which I was aware of. So I just bring the highlight down slightly a bit. And definitely bringing up the blacks. So I want details. I love clothing with structure and details in it. So I'm bringing up the blacks a little bit. And I might just do midtones slightly on that one. Other than that, there is no particular issue here for me to go in and do anything about the saturation. I will do that in Photoshop. But if I have a client that has a redness to the skin, I might already in Lightroom bring some of the saturation down in red or yellow for that matter. It could happen. Very, very tanned. Add some tanning lotion on that and some extra tanning lotion on that, and you have a very yellow face, and you have to bring that down as well. So here I have done the amount I want, and I open it in Photoshop, and I have put my settings on 16 bits when I open it in Photoshop because of frequency separation. It prefers to work with 16 bits. I will change that back before I save it and close my file. But for frequency separation, that's what I need. So when I'm here, I will not do that. I will do this. And then this. I will use... Hello. No. It's incredible. I'm a little bit sweaty in my hands. So when I touched it, it's like slid a little bit.
That's okay. It's very hot in here.
It is hot.
Yeah.
So what I do is, I do first of all, I copy my layer and I do a cleanup layer. This is how I start with all of my images. Doesn't matter what kind of work it is. If it's a corporate headshot, or if it's a fine art, or it's a competition print, every editing starts like this. And I use the Band-Aid. Do you guys have it in Danish? You have your Photoshop in Danish?
Yeah, it is in Danish, but many use it in
I use it in English, yeah, I know. Healing brush tool, thank you.
Yes.
That is one thing I always forget. Okay, so I use the healing brush tool a lot because it doesn't make it like a cloning where it gets muddy, because this one keeps the structure. And I'll go over and I will touch up on things that sticks out or feels like either irregularity in their skin. When it's a client, I don't take away things that are permanent. I will take away blemishes and stuff like that. But if I do a model shoot or a fine art piece, I can do whatever I want. So if I don't want that little beauty spot, whatever, I'll take it away. But if it's a client, I do not. And sometimes if there is maybe an issue where I don't know if it's a pimple or just a little liver spot, I just tone it down so you can hardly see it. And then if somebody says, well, I had like a little spot here. Did you take that away? No, it's there. If you just squint, it's right there. I have, but it's been quite a few years now. But sometimes I actually called a client up because there was such an obvious mark, but it really looked like a pimple. So I had to call, I think it was a student picture, like portrait. I had to call the mom.
Yeah, that's a question from the audience.
Oh, yeah, go.
Yeah.
What if a client asks you to remove a scar or something that is permanent? Do you stay away from that and say no way, or do you actually do it for a client?
I remove it. If it's an adult, I've been going head to head with some terrible parents that has been in front of the kids saying that, this is, maybe a scar or something, and in front of the kid saying something that is negative, and then want me to remove. I goes, no, I would never do that. We don't do that, no. Then I have like very strong integrity. If it's an adult that says, can you make them a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller? I go, sure, no problem. But when it comes to children and their self-esteem, I am head to head. I refuse. I don't mind taking a bruise off, if they hurt the knee or something like that. But like you said, a scar or something permanent, or if they have like there was actually one mom that says that the kid had a little bit of an ear situation that they were supposed to have surgery on just a couple months later. And I actually convinced her. I said, I can fix it. Because she's like, this is not, because we had the discussion. And she said, it's not going to be a part of her. She's not going to remember. And I don't want her to, probably not even know about it, because it was just like a 1-year-old or something. And I says, why don't you just keep one? Because it's who she is and her history. So she could see that mind, the thinking about that. So she agreed to keep one. But I try to be morally, so I can stand for my own morals when it comes to that. But sometimes I use like liquefy to take away things that I actually could have corrected in camera that made people, sometimes when you squeeze your big arm in and it floats out, or you hunch back a little bit and you get a little bit of bulb here, I'll take that. I thinning the arm to make it balanced with the rest of the body. I don't even tell my client, and they don't even know. I don't rearrange them, but I make sure it's balanced, because I should have caught that in camera and changed my angle to where that thigh didn't look as big, and so on. So I correct. And I also had this lady many years ago. I'm sorry, there's so many stories.
Yes. Go, make them short.
Okay, I'll be quick. Okay, so this lady came in and she was running a company, and she had 5 employees, and they were going to do a group shot of 6 people, but she was very short. And she had a big bosom, and she was like, I do not want to have a body shot. And she's also got them new shirts just for the shoot, where they're like super tight. So everything was just accentuating. And she says, but I don't want my body to be seen. And she was the shorter person in the group. What am I going to put her? In the back? Or what am I going to do with 6 people? Like this? In a line like that? So I was like, no. I'm gonna, with angles and everything, just trust me. So I had them grouping up, and she was not like like this in the front, but she was like on the side and people would come around her like a big group hug. And at that editing, I actually just balanced it out a little bit, just took it down a little bit because of the angles where I was shooting. I didn't even tell her. And she still looked like her, but the perspective just changed it a little bit and I just balanced the picture out. They were super happy. So I have to go in there and correct a little bit sometimes. For the good of it.
Yeah.
For the better.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm doing this and I'm not going to do the whole thing. So I am switching between this right here and the cloning stamp. And I'm going through all the lines that I can find that are, for me, disturbing. Here we are. You don't have that many things that are disturbing there. Beautiful. I'll take this away. There you go. I'll just lower it down. And when I've done the most obvious things, I will also, when I have enough time, I'll make sure that these strands, here's a tip. With the healing brush tool, you know you have the spot healing brush tool. And it's only been a couple years since I learned this when it comes to hair. When you have a strand of hair like this that sort of sticks out a little bit, it's hard to do that with cloning or the healing brush tool because it gets all messy, right? The spot healing tool, the spot healing brush, and you make sure it's close to, let me see if I can get this up here. Let's back that up a little bit. I need for it to be adjusted in size to where it's not too big because then it gets messy. But you can come down here with the spot healing brush and take these lines out and not messing up the rest of their hair. And that has been a lifesaver. Look at that. Especially when it comes to, you know, you're in like over a shirt here, over the tulle. You can come in here and just clean it up with that one. I use that so much. When you have a strand of hair that goes over lines or over the eye, like 500%, and it's coming with a spot healing brush, and it works most of the time very, very well. So I'm not going to do this, but in a fine art image, I will go through and clean this up pretty good. Strands of hair and everything. From here, when I have decided that I have cleaned up with spots and dust or whatever, I cleaned up my image, I actually close those layers down because I know there's nothing I'm going to go back to. The cleaning layer it's cleaned up, it's done, I'm committed. So I'm closing that down. And from here, I do have a macro for the frequency separation, so I open that up. And here you can see, you guys who don't know it, the low layer is handling the tones and the high is handling structures and texture. So I'm starting in low and I'm starting with my cloning tool, cloning stamp, and I'm way down low on 4%. I usually use flow instead of opacity. Don't ask me why. I read it somewhere. I started many years ago. Now I do it that way. And when I come over here, for me, the fine art image is about balancing dark and light. I do not want the edges to be harsh. I want the transition from the brightness to the darkness to be smooth. So I make sure that I go over and find those hot spots, and I sample with my option key a lot. You can see it's moving just as fast as my other finger. I think that's probably the key on my keyboard that is the most worn out, is my option key. So I will make sure that we have a smooth transition between dark and light. If I'm hitting some of the, you don't have a lot of darkness underneath your eyes, Isabel, but if I did have some darkness over here, I will switch my clone stamps to lighten. And go over here, and that would be even smoother. And using such a low flow can seem like tedious and it doesn't affect that much, but let me show you what I've done underneath her eyes and in her forehead, just with 4% of flow. This is what happened. With those, and the texture is still there. The texture is impact, which is why I love to use frequency separation. Okay, so I took care a little bit underneath the eyes, and then I'm moving back to...
So you have lowered the contrast between dark and...
Yeah, I want it to be subtle.
Yeah.
The difference between the highlight, the little highlight speckles, stuff like that. I'm going to add my brightness and my shadows in dodge and burning, the next step.
Okay.
To be in control of that. But I want to soften it really well first. So I'm switching back to normal mode to handle the little bit of unpowdered spot down here. And always soft, and circular motion. Circular, just to make sure that I'm being gentle throughout my whole process. I will go into the shadow area here and just see if I can carefully soften the transitions. And I love the fact, can you guys see some of Fune, some of the small hairs here? Can you see it on the screen? Okay, great. We're going large. Close up. I'm switching to the texture layer, the structure layer. I'm actually going to go up a little bit of in flow. I'm at the 12% right now. And sampling somewhere without those lines, it will copy the texture from there. And it will just soften them. Because those hairs are texture. They're like the textured lines. You see them as soft little hairs, but they are actually strong textures in the image. So when I go over like this, it goes away. Bam! Over here. And it can also be used when we want to soften a little bit of structure in lips. If you have some, vad heter det, fnasiga läppar. You say the same word? Fnasigt?
Dry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some dry lips.
Yeah, dry lips. Yeah.
It can help to smooth those edges out. Smoothing. Okay. So now I'm still in my texture layer, because if you go up here, you see a little bit of highlight right there with my texture. And there's actually a strong texture structure in there. I'll soften that. And then I go down to my tonal layer again and just go over. And with some training, you switch between these two layers, so easy. Jump, back and forth. And I don't want to take any of her texture in her face, because we know those overworked images looks like. I want to keep her texture, but sometimes it gets to be a little bit too rough. It's ridiculous I'm talking about this in this wonderful image, but I just want to show the example of it. So I go over there. Fine lines, I don't take them away. I might reduce the appearance of them. And sometimes when you have pores that can feel a little bit rough around here, this texture layer can soften those a little bit. All right, moving up. So I'm going to treat my shadow there a little bit underneath that comes from the light. I will go back to lighten. Coming down again. I'm at 5% now. Widen up my clone stamp and just carefully go over the edges of that shadow. Coming in slightly. I don't take it away. I open it up a little bit to make it softer. Okay. This is the fundamental of frequency separation. It moves. Oh, no, wait, backing up. Necks. This neck is wonderful, but when you're in my age, the necks are more of a challenge. when it comes to portraits. And sometimes that takes away. I'm not saying we want to redo anybody, but if it's heavy textured or layered, or you have lines going, it does take away sometimes the focus from the face and the eyes. So I will usually go over them with this as well. And I will put my clone stamp on lighten again, wide, and then brush over the dark areas, and it once again doesn't take the lines away, it just balances up the tonality. Okay, bringing down the face, real quick look at frequency separation, what it did to this face. Subtle, not overdoing it, but it was a cleanup, making it smooth transitions. From here, I'll just go to my other macro, which is dodge and burn. And it is very simple. It opens up 2 layers where I have pulled a curve up and the other curve down. Because now I want to paint in some light areas, contra, darkness. I want to give the highlights where I want the highlights. So I might want to emphasize the highlights, but I want to do it to where I can control it. And when I do this, I usually think like a makeup artist. How they work with contouring. They use highlights on the top of their cheekbones, some highlights here, highlights going down the nose, a little bit of highlight here, and then they contour a little bit in here, and then they do a little bit darker underneath there. So looking at some makeup charts, like on Pinterest, something like that, can actually teach you a good way to use dodge and burn. And you have to be careful with this tool, the dodge and burn, because it can really rearrange somebody's face. Because that's what we are built, our faces are made out of light areas and dark areas, and where we have our highlights and our shadows. And if I go bananas on her, she's going to be like, who is that? So I emphasize the highlights I want, and when it comes to the eyes, I want it a little bit more. So I'm going to go up a little bit. And what I'm very careful of when it comes to eyes is that I don't make the whole eye white, because we always have a little bit of shadow because of our eyelids. So to not make them look super fake, I just brush in the lower end with some brightness. And if I want to do slightly more of an effect, I'm going to go into the iris and just do the speckles a little bit more to brighten those up even further. From here, oh, another one that's great. That is for hair. You use the bright layer to add in some extra highlights in their hair. Right there. If I want to, I will also use that layer to add some sparkles to like the flowers to make sure that it pops a little bit. I will give the hands some glow. I will definitely glow up the arm a little bit. I'm doing this so bit quicker now. Right here. And what I could do is brighten this up and paint in some structure in the clothing. And if we have lines coming down, like on the dress right here, my screen is so dark. You can use yours so dark too, right?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I use it for emphasizing structure and movement in the clothing. So if I have a nice piece of clothing and it falls down and I have those lines coming in it, I can actually deepen the shadows and lift up the highlights to just make those drapings more painted. Back to old masters of painting again. If I go too much, I can always go back and I'd switch to my black pencil. I overdid it over there. There you go. Okay. So from here, let's see what we have. Oh, no, wait. I forgot something. The dark layer. Nobody called me on that. Okay. The dark layer, it tends to be affected a lot, so I will make sure I'm down at 4%. And then I will paint in the shadows that I want. Am I doing this right? Yeah, we're good. Yeah, okay. Didn't show up. So I will, once again, paint in her face, give her a little bit of contouring around her face. I would straighten up that nose a little bit, doing a little bit like that. That's how you can really change somebody's face. If I do very dark shadows on each nose, they get to be very thin like this. So you have to be careful. But I want to deepen the shadows because I want to add this painted look to it. And I think when it comes to the dodge and burn part of editing, this is where I can get creative. I can add, take away, emphasize something. All right. Here, let's see what we have. This is what we did. And as you can tell, the dodge and burn is really a big part of the painted effect. Because I sculpt with that. That's where the creativity comes in. I want to end this editing with actually adding a texture to it. Like a canvas. Usually I shoot against textured backdrops, but we don't always have that, and I don't always have it in all the colors I want. So today we had a plain paper backdrop, but I can always add texture. So I have a folder with all different kind of textures. I buy textures, I make textures, they're everywhere. You can go look for them, you can go and find them. Concrete, water, all kind of different things can make great textures. So I put this on here, make sure it's on top layer. Way over her, make sure I adjust that, coming up. And then I go through, it's called layer mode or?
Layer mode.
Layer mode. Most often I end up at soft light. I think it's like, it tends to be a nice way, but I can sit here and I can go through them. Overlay is kind of cool. It's kind of rough on this one. So I think I'm going to go to soft light. It's nice and soft. And the texture looks great on the backdrop, but I do not want it on her face and on her skin. So I will put a mask on it and go to my black brush tool and paint that texture away. Wait, yes, from her. Oh, the opacity happened to be on 10. There we go. There you go. I'm not as careful right now, but usually when I come to the edges, since I have put in texture on a plain backdrop, I have to be careful with the edges, because if I just brush over that, the whole texture is going to disappear. But I'd be a little bit quick here now just for showing you guys what happens. So texture is always nice to add to the painterly feel. I do keep some texture sometimes in the dresses, because I like the way that that is not totally, like it feels like a cutout sometimes if you have a super clean edges. So if I just let the clothing be little bit of texture left in it, I think it connects the image together. I will change this back to 8 bits channel. 8, and I'll close it down. I save it, and now I saved it in layers, so I can always go back if I need to. When I do this, my final, before we start talking about prints, is when I have this final image coming up here in Lightroom. Where are you? Disappeared on me? No, here it is. Oh, there it is. It just hadn't saved yet. Okay.
Okay.
So here I am. And if I know I'm going to use this, for example, for Instagram, I will go in here and I will make it 4:5 to fit the Instagram format. And from here, I will open this up into a plugin program that's called Exposure. Have you guys heard about Exposure? Okay, it used to be called Alien Skin. Does that ring a bell? It is a plugin program that simulates old films, analog films. And I will start out by saying, I'm sorry if I introduce you to this, because this is a time thief. You can get lost in all the options in here. It starts right up here. Black and white films, low contrast, polar, vintage, focus, infrared. And when you open one of these up, hello. Take your pick. What suits you today? And from here, you can go from here into this, let's just push that down, into this sidebar right here and tweak it, which gives it any more options, super more options. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to go down to Martina folder because I have saved some of my favorite presets that suits my style. But it is a great tool to play around with. And like I said, I'm sorry. Here's one of my favorites. It's desaturated. It brings out the highlights. It gives it that painted look. But I have so many here that I usually run through and check to see what kind of mood I am in today. Do I want to go cold? Do I want to go, you know, rougher? But one up here is one I tend to come back to a lot. And then I adjust it over here to make sure. Now I lowered it, so I was down to 89%. And if I think her highlight is too high, I can always bring this down. There are actually added texture here. I don't like that added on because I cannot control where the texture lands. So I make sure this is clean up. I can produce more grain if I want to. But I don't want to, so I bring it down. I don't mind having a little bit of grain. That's lovely to keep that analog feeling to it. And what this does is actually give me that color grading, that final touch to my images. And for me, looking before and after, I'll say I'm done here. And then I apply that. And this is actually a copy of that edited file. So I haven't ruined anything. I can always go back. And here it is.
So I think we have to wrap up the seminar, and I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you so much, Martina, for your inspiration and for sharing all your tips and tricks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for the audience who visited us today. Yeah. Don't forget to watch upcoming videos on our YouTube and Facebook channel. And thank you to Canon for letting this show go on. And thank you out there, and take care, everyone. Thanks for now. Bye-bye.